Mm, mm, mm. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Disney Antiquities and Collectibles. It is Sunday with my co-host, as always, the amazing Matt McKim. Matt, how you doing today?
Okay. Hello, everyone. We've got a good show for you today.
Yeah, we do. We got to start off though. We got to, talk about a little Richard Sherman, the icon Richard Sherman passing away last night. And
Yes.
I want to get into that a little bit more, but it's just kind of a sad day. It's a little bit more of Disney
Yeah.
that's getting away from us. So
Yes.
but our guest today is the great Rick Farmiloe. Amazing career, animator, sequence director. And I can't wait to talk to him. I know your brother worked with him, so this is going to be a lot of fun.
Yes.
So I
Yes.
guess, yeah. So without further ado, let's bring on the great Rick Farmiloe, everybody. Rick.
Hello, Rick.
How you doing today, sir?
We made it. How are you?
Okay.
Good.
Glad to have you on the show.
Yeah, it's great to have you. I wanted to ask, you're from San Francisco, well, the Bay Area.
Santa Rosa, yeah.
What year did you come down from the Bay Area to kind of kick things off here in Southern California?
I moved here in like the early fall of 1978. Moved to LA, and I met Bob Clampett. I know Matt knows who Bob Clampett is.
Yes.
Old Warner Brothers director, Vinny and Cecil. And I met him, and that kind of started my career. He kind of really helped me a lot, and just took me under his wing and treated me like one of the family. The whole family was great to me. It was just the weirdest thing. They were so nice and so friendly and open and stuff. Anyway, because of him, I got started in animation. I really have to give him a lot of credit.
And were you leaning towards animation or just
absolutely
art in general?
Well, the plan was I was going to go to Cal Arts. I had spent 1 year at art school up in Oakland, and then I was going to move to LA and go to Cal Arts, and I applied, but I got in too late, and they said, we want you to we can't bring you in now, but we'd like you to reapply for the spring. So I said, okay. So I had to figure out what to do, what I was going to do. So I got a job at a record store called Music Plus, and if you're from LA, you know what Music Plus was.
Yes.
A chain of these awesome record stores. So I worked for Music Plus for a few months, about 6 months, and then I'll quickly go through it. But Bob Clampett wrote me and said, hey, they're doing a class at a studio called Filmation. They're going to hire new animators for this Mighty Mouse show, and I think you should take the class. I think you'd have a good chance. He said, here's the guy's number, and call him and set this up. So I did. I called. His name is Milt Gray, and he was running the class. And every Wednesday we would go. He'd give us an assignment. We'd come home and had a cheap little plastic light box, that I animated on. And they were going to hire the best people from the class. And there was about maybe 15 people in the class. And they hired maybe 5, and I was one of the ones that they liked. So I started working there around spring of 1979.
Wow.
So I started working on I started animating a cartoon called Quackula. So that was my beginning, was Filmation. It was 1979. And what happened was I just decided not to go to Cal Arts because I was already working. I thought, well, it seems kind of silly to quit a job animating to go to school to learn how to animate,
Yeah.
So I just decided to stay at Filmation and just try to learn as much as I could, and then hopefully get good enough to go to Disney at some point.
Well, you were learning from the pros anyways. So
I learned from a lot of these guys. A couple of these guys worked on Popeye, the old black and white Popeyes, and a couple of ex-Disney guys, and some Hanna-Barbera and MGM, and just a bunch of veterans. And they all were so helpful and so open to a young guy like me just wanting to learn. So I was really lucky to be with a really great group of people there.
Oh yeah, better than a university.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no dorms. I got to see
who were some of the people? Who were some of the people that you were? Because I remember, like the 9 Old Men. You were working with some of the 9 Old Men.
Well, those guys,
Disney,
when I went to Disney, I was there. I was at Filmation for almost 2 years. And then I went to Disney in January of 1982. What happened was Filmation had a hiatus, which they'd have every year of a few months. And then we got laid off for a few months. And so I decided to really work on my portfolio. And I just worked really hard. Every day I went drawing either to the park or to the zoo. So I bought a pass to the LA Zoo, and I would switch off. Every other day I'd go somewhere else and spend the whole day there and just fill my sketchbook up with drawings. And I took some figure drawing classes at night. And so I applied. It was around Christmas time. And everyone there, so I had some friends at Disney at the time. They said, well, don't expect to get in your first time because they want to see how bad you want it. You know, they'll look at your portfolio and they'll give you some suggestions. And then you're going to have to do, Randy Cartwright took him 2 or 3 times. Okay, so I wasn't expecting it. Anyway, so I turned in my portfolio, and then I got a call from Ed Hansen, who was the head of animation at the time. And I just assumed he was going to tell me where I could pick up my portfolio. Like, your portfolio is ready. It's at the front gate. Come and get it. So he said, yeah, the review board, he told me who he was. He said, the review board looked at your stuff, looked at your work. I said, okay. And so I'm just expecting, when can I pick up the portfolio? And he says, so the review board looked at it and we want to hire you. And I was like, what? I was kind of not prepared for that. So he says, we want to hire you for the Black Cauldron. And he says, when can you start? And I said, I'll be there in 15 minutes, But it worked out where I was he said, let's start the day after New Year's, so January 2nd. So I said, okay. And I mean, I was on cloud 9. I was so happy. So that's what happened. And I worked on Black Cauldron and a little bit of Mickey's Christmas Carol. I would do that at night, like sort of as freelance, like overtime. So I worked on both of those at the same time.
Yeah.
But yeah, you asked me who I worked with. Of course, there was the younger generation, which was like I mentioned, Randy Cartwright, Ron Clemens, John Musker, John Lasseter, Tim Burton, Mike Gabriel, who was my mentor. Those are the guys I kind of started with. They started a little bit before I did, but we were all kind of the same age. And at the time, Willie Reitherman, Mark Davis, Ward Kimball, Frank and Ollie, they were still there. And it was just crazy to walk down the hallway. Here comes my first day there. I'm walking down the hallway, and I see this guy walking wearing all white shoes, Hawaiian shirt, and it was Wooly. And he just kind of said, hey, he just kind of looked at me and winked and said, hey. And I just sort of like, hi, Wooly. I was like, just kind of in awe. I'm like, God, I'm really here. It was like the weirdest feeling, but just felt amazing,
Surreal.
And it was still family back then, too.
It was, pardon me?
It was still family back then.
Oh, absolutely.
Family.
That's the thing I noticed about just kind of walking around and talking to people. Everybody was so nice, and it was like you were a part of this big. We knew everybody. The guys in the back lot, we knew all the people that worked in the cafeteria, the people who were in traffic. When I say traffic, I mean they were like the mail delivery, the mail on bikes. They had these old bicycles run around the studio, but we just knew everybody, and everybody was nice to everybody. And it was, you say, a family feeling, and it absolutely was. I mean, it was not anybody's imagination. It really was like a family. It was really wonderful.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I've heard you talk about John Lounsbury being sort of somebody that you really looked up to. Your art emulates his. Your art emulates his so much, I think.
I wish.
You didn't get to meet him, but you're good friends with his daughter.
Yes.
You're friends with his daughter, correct?
Yeah, I'm very close to his daughter Andrea, and the family, all the kids. There's like 2 or 3 brothers and her, and we're I'm really close to Andrea, but I like all the other guys are great too. But I just something about John Lounsbury's animation just spoke to me, like that's what I want to do. His style, his sense of humor, his way he could do a funny drawing, and just the drawing was funny without even the gag. And he was such a great draftsman. I think I think he was second only to Milt as far as his draftsmanship. So I would go to the morgue, like we talked a little bit earlier in the pre-show about going to the morgue and checking out scenes. And I would just take scenes back from like Jungle Book and stuff and Lady and the Tramp and Xerox them and just study them and flip them and look at his lines. And I just wanted so bad to be anywhere close to that guy. He was the guy that I just really had a kinship with, his style. And like I said, his drawing style, his sense of humor, and he did a lot. He could do dramatic stuff, also really funny stuff. And I knew I wasn't going to do any dramatic stuff. I wasn't that kind of, I was more a funny animator. So,
Okay.
but I glommed onto his style because it was beautiful art, but funny, you know? And it's like, maybe I'll never be able to draw as well as he does, but I just wanted to emulate him as much as I could.
Yeah.
So,
well, both of you have beautiful work. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, I work really hard. I don't know how good I am, but I tried really hard, you know, to do funny animation, and because I thought that was my forte, and they gave me all sidekicks. I mean, what happened was, this is several years ago now, it's probably 10 years ago. I was at Van Eaton Gallery at an art show, and I had a couple of pieces in the art show. And this friend of mine, Brittany, came up to me. She goes, "You're like the Ward Kimball of today." And I said, "Are you out of your mind?" I said, where do you get that? You know, I said, "You gotta be kidding me. What are you seeing of mine that would make you say that?" She says,
"Are you wearing round glasses?"
Yeah, exactly. The big round glass. I should have done that. She goes, "Well, no, because you do nothing but sidekicks, all your animation." And I was like, wow, you know, you're right. That's kind of what I got pegged doing, is the funny sidekick characters. And those are the ones I really wanted to do. Like, I'd read the script and I'd see, you know, Seagull. Oh, the Scuttle seems like a funny character. And this is before we did the voices.
Scuttle.
And I loved Abu and LeFou and these other characters that were just comedy, you know? And that's what I really wanted I thought I was best at, you know? So whenever I would go to the directors to tell them, you know, I was really thinking about this particular character, I think I'd like to work on that. And they always, like Musker would say, "Well, we're thinking you'd do that. That's what you do." So I always got the characters I wanted. So I felt really lucky that I was able to get some characters that I could excel at, you know?
Yeah. Well, you knew your strengths and what you enjoyed.
So. And my weaknesses. You know, they were going to give me Ariel. They weren't going to give me the Beast. I knew that, but I wanted to find what I could do really well, what I felt that I could bring something to, you know?
And excel.
Yeah. Who was the funniest? Who was the one that you had the most fun with? The most fun with the sidekick?
God, it's really I get that question.
I love LeFou
a lot. I loved doing Buddy Hackett. I loved his voice, and he was as far as like just dialogue and saying funny things, I really, you know, sort of, you know, clued into him and his attitude. And, you know, Dave Steffen, who was the lead on the character, set the model, and we wanted to make it look like Buddy Hackett and talk out the side of his mouth. Hey kid, you know, "Hey, what you doing, kid?" You know, just this funny thing Buddy Hackett had. And when you met him, I met him and went to a lot of the recordings, and we actually became friends after the movie was over. But he just had a certain thing about him. He just was funny, just naturally funny. So we were trying to capture that real Buddy Hackett feel in Scuttle, you know. And I think for the most part we did. You know, we succeeded in capturing his essence, you know, and his sense of humor and that kind of thing.
Absolutely. You guys.
I love Skittle, but I love doing Abu too. Abu was really funny, even though he didn't talk, because he was all pantomime and he was like a little kid. And I used to think of my son, Grant, who was about 3 years old, who was just like Abu. Real funny, really just naturally funny, but he had a little attitude and a little temper, and, you know, and so I used a lot of him when I was animating on Abu, you know. So it's like, you know, it's like you're getting something from life, you know. You're getting a real personality that you can put in the character.
Absolutely. And that was one of the characters my brother Brian worked with you on.
Yeah, he did. Yes, absolutely. He did great work. He did absolutely great work.
Oh, thanks. I'll pass that on.
Please do. Yes, he was great.
And I was always curious about that. Like, everybody, like, you guys all worked together at one point. And are you guys all hanging out? Are you guys working with each other? Are you bouncing ideas off each other about different things
absolutely.
and how you're working together?
That was the beauty of being at Disney at the time. Was we were all in one, you know, when we were in the animation building, it was a little bit different in that we had hallways. So you'd see the people in your hallway. I was in D wing. You'd see all the people in your wing all the time, you know, down the hallway and stuff. But then you see other friends from other sometimes. But when we moved to Glendale, we were all in one big building, and there wasn't wing hallways anymore. It was just one big thing with cubicles, and some of us had offices on the outside of the building. So we had rooms and windows. so we had, you know, we had a little bit of privacy or whatever, but we all saw each other all the time. And you could just walk into anybody's office. I'd walk into Glenn Keane. I said, Glenn, I'm having trouble, you know, maybe I was animating Einstein, you know, from Oliver or whatever. I said, I'm having trouble with these poses. Could you help me? Sure. I said, now let's take a look at this. Well, let's try this. And he'd just get that big drafting pencil out and draw all these big drawings and do like 5 or 6 poses for me. And try this. Maybe this might work for you. And it's like, yeah, that was it. It just needed somebody else to look at it and pinpoint where it wasn't working. But we'd shoot our scenes out kind of like in the hallway and watch them. And somebody would walk by, hey, Dave Proxima, come here. Will Finn, come here. What do you think of this? Well, what's it supposed to do? Well, he's supposed to be doing blah, blah, blah. Well, maybe if you sped up this part a little bit, you know, it was that kind of thing. It was amazing that we all just got along. We were just like this big communal, you know, situation where we all liked each other. I mean, there'd be these little ego fights, you know, or what, I want to get that scene, I want to get that sequence, you know, those types of deals, which happens everywhere. But I mean, we all really wanted to help each other, and we all wanted to do great animation. And so we were never, you know, selfish about it. We all tried to help each other because it would just make the film better, you know?
Sure.
And we just learned that. I mean, Frank and Ollie were kind of our mentors, and they would tell us how they worked. They'd take a scene into Milt or whoever it was, or in the old days, Fred Moore, you know, and say, what do you think of this? And Freddie would do some drawings over it and make it, you know, improve it a little bit. Take drawings into Lounsbury. He was always very open and very friendly with anybody who came in, and he'd just do a couple of drawings. And what do you think of, maybe this might work, try this, you know? So it was that kind of a thing that we had. And we were all, geez, we were all just friends, you know? It was, you know, the thing that I tell people is like, we kind of grew together. We started on, a lot of us started animating on Great Mouse Detective. That was our first film as animators. And we just kind of grew, you know, through the pictures. You know, we just go from one film to the next, the same group. And to me, by the time we made Aladdin, I was like, man, now we know what we're doing. It just felt like the perfect movie. All the animation was good. The writing, of course, and Howard Ashman's songs were just amazing and inspirational. But I just sort of felt like, even looking at it now, like that film felt like we really knew it. You know, and I wasn't on Lion King, but same thing with Lion King. But I just felt like we had finally grown into really good animators that could do good stuff, and it elevated the films, you know.
Oh, sure. Well, when you guys were working together so well and knew each other so well, then it's clockwork.
It really was.
And when you had a problem, you knew where to go.
Yeah, there'd be like, you know, the director would say, I think, even though there was a few of us in the unit, like say the Scuttle unit or the Abu unit, they would say, well, I think so-and-so would be good for this particular sequence. This is where it's kind of more of a heartwarming sort of a thing. Whereas I'm going to put this guy in this sequence because that's just funny and crazy. And I think he would do better. So it's casting. You're casting somebody, you know?
Yeah.
And they really just sort of had a feeling for what people's strengths were, and, you know, what they would excel at and what they were interested in doing. Because if you were interested in doing something, you probably were going to do a really good job. You'd invest whatever time and effort you could into the scene to make it really great because you had a feeling for it. So I think they knew all that. The directors knew they knew us so well. They knew what our strengths and our weaknesses were.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a good team.
You dabbled.
You got good leaders that can see that. Good, Vince.
You dabbled in animations, sequence director, storyboards. Which one did you prefer? Which one did you like best?
By far, animating.
Yeah.
By far. I still do boards, you know, and sequence directing. I did sequence directing a couple of places, but when I went to Klasky Chupo years later, I went to from Disney, I went to Swan Princess, and then I went to DreamWorks. And then after DreamWorks, I went to Klasky Chupo and worked on a Rugrats movie, and they hired me as a sequence director, which means you do a lot of stuff. You do, you know, work booking, you do boards, you direct animation, you call for retakes. It's like directing, but just for one sequence. So, and I really enjoyed it. It was really fun. I loved it. But I think at the end of the day, what I love more than anything is just animating, just drawing and animating.
Right. Right.
And storyboarding I like too. When I was at not so much at Disney, but at DreamWorks, I used to have lots of notes. We'd go to a screening and I had pages of notes, and I'd send them to Jeffrey and the directors and the producer. Just my ideas, like, this doesn't seem to work. Maybe try this, and just kind of funny ideas, try to make it funny. So I would be like called in on comedy passes on films. They'd have a few of us sit there and watch the movie and try to think of things that we could put in the film that would be funny. Now I personally don't think that's the way to do a comedy, is do a straight film and throw gags in it. I think you have to, the comedy has to be in there already. Maybe you can improve on it. But anyway, so I would do that. But Jeffrey really liked my ideas. Jeffrey Katzenberg I'm talking about. He says, you need to get into story. I said, well, I don't really want to stop animating. He says, during Road to El Dorado, I said, I don't really want to stop animating. I really like animating. He goes, well, no one's going to miss your animation. He said, you have really great ideas. You should be in story. So eventually all right. So I, in the middle of, or near the end of El Dorado, I did some storyboards, and then it was kind of done. And then I went on to Shrek and did storyboards on Shrek. Okay. And I still do like to do boards. I still do boards a lot, but I prefer, hand-drawn animation. When I can do that, I prefer to do that. I think that's what my strength is, but I can do boards and I enjoy them, and you come up with ideas and there's poses, and it's the same general thing as animating, but it's not, to me, it's not quite as satisfying as finishing something,
The finished artwork itself.
Exactly.
So did you do any animation on Shrek at all?
I didn't do any because it was all CG.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, and at the time I didn't even, they had just started doing CG, and I wasn't really interested in it. I mean, they were wanting me to learn it, and I was, I'm like, okay, but I just really, and especially in the early days, it was so ugly to me. And Toy Story and those are great. I mean, Pixar was doing great stuff, but it just didn't register with me as something I really wanted to pursue. I just like to draw. I don't want to move and I did take a Maya class, and I enjoyed it. It was fun to do it. And I was able to have a golf ball fall off of a tee. I thought, well, that's, and I'm like, well, that's a cute thing. And, but that's not really what I really want to do. I can't see myself doing this,
Right.
Having a golf. It was a cute little exercise, but I'm like, man, I can feel I can do so much more by hand drawn. So I was really going against the tide just by sticking with hand drawn. I don't even know what
my brother Brian.
Anyway, no, I did not animate on Shrek. I just did some boards.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And my brother Brian was feeling the same way about 3D, and he just said, "This is not for me."
Like I said, I wasn't that I didn't give it a chance. I did, like I said, I did take a class in it, and I got a B+. But I thought, man, I just don't really want to do this. It's already there. Like the figure's already there. It's in a box and you're moving it around with a mouse. I'm like, it just doesn't have the same feeling as a blank piece of paper and a 2B, pencil, Blackwing pencil, and then it's all up here. What's going to happen, and I figured it out, but maybe I'm going to change it, So, and you can add anything to a hand-drawn animated scene. I want to put a hat on the guy, and would I have ideas for CG? I'd say, I have an idea. How about this? Oh, no, we can't build that. We need to build that. Not just for one scene, I'm like, what the hell is the point of this? Is supposed to be an improvement, yet you can't come up with gags because we haven't built that. Yeah, we're not going to build it just for one, Anyway, I ran into that a lot, just the resistance of spontaneity. You couldn't do that. Had to, so that was another drawback for me.
Interesting. Yeah, it's all about story.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it totally is. Totally.
Yeah.
All that story.
You got to support the story.
Would you love to see a 2D movie come back? Would you love to see a 2D movie come back, Rick?
Oh, I'd be on
try
it, man.
a 2D movie all over again?
Right on it. I thought, I would love to. I mean, there's a couple of things that are out there that I'm talking to a couple of people about. I really wanted to work on Klaus. I thought Klaus turned out really well. Did you guys see it? See, there's a nice 2D movie. Some people saw it, some people didn't.
Yeah,
it was done overseas. It was directed by Sergio Pablos, and it's terrific, really terrific.
Okay.
But the only drawback for me was I would have to move to Madrid to work on it, and I didn't want to move to Madrid. So I didn't get, but he wanted me on it. It just didn't work out where I was going to be able to move there. So,
Yeah.
but anyway, there's a lot of 2D stuff still out there, you know.
Probably more shorts
Floating around.
Yeah, in fact, I worked on Brave Locomotive last year. I don't know if you guys saw that, but it's very traditional Disney looking. Looks like 1946, you know. It looks like it should be right in the middle of Ichabod and Crane. There's a movie about a train in the middle of those two movies. That's how it felt. It felt like it belonged right in there. And boy, I loved working on that. And I think that was really fun. That felt like a real throwback to the old days, you know. So there's stuff. There is stuff being planned, and there's people really wanting to do it. I'm teaching. Not only am I still working, but I'm also teaching animation at Laguna College of Art and Design.
Oh,
and
okay.
Those students really want to do hand drawn. They really. I mean, some of them are okay with CG, but they're so hungry to be able to animate in 2D, you know. And they love that I'm their teacher who did it and can show them this is how we did it, and this is how you can do it. You know, you can do what you want with it after this, but learning the classical hand-drawn animation is something they really, really like. So
that's good to have.
You know,
it's good to have that foundation.
Yeah.
You know,
I agree.
The hand-drawn, then you can go on to the CG.
Absolutely, Matt. Yes,
You'll be a better animator for it.
Yeah, those principles have to be learned, and those principles can be applied in CG or stop motion. I've done a lot of 2D and stop motion, believe it or not. I've done facial expressions and dialogue stuff for the puppets. I first went up to Leica to work on box trolls, and they just wanted to improve the acting and the puppets. So they were thinking, we need to get somebody up here who can do that Disney kind of thing. And at the time, my friend Dan Jupe, who's a storyboard artist up there, said, I know the perfect guy. And he said, he'd be perfect for this. So they called me. I went up there. And for 9 months, I went back and forth from LA to Portland. But I animated on paper lots of dialogue with all the characters in different views, straight on, 3/4, and profile. So I did that. Dave Vandervoort, my partner up there, we both did that, and the results were great. I mean, they liked plussing the acting in those puppets. Yeah. And then recently I worked on Henry Selick's Wendell and Wild, doing the same thing, doing dialogue stuff, and also just animating them early on just to see how they'd move. You know, even if he wanted it 2D, and then they were going to have the stop motion guys kind of follow my 2D animation. And when it was done, you know, went to the premiere and a lot of my stuff that I did early, the early experimental stuff, they used it. The puppet, you know, animators used it. And I talked to Henry, and I talked to their producer. They said the same thing when I told them this. They said, I was so thrilled to see you guys used my animation. And they said, we paid you for it. Of course we're going to use it. They're like, well, what do you expect? You know, but that was really rewarding to see your stuff that you did on paper, and it's up on the screen, and it's a puppet, but you're using the same poses and the same timing. Yeah. So there's a lot of instances where 2D is still used, and those are a couple of examples of stop motion that they uses them. So it was pretty cool.
So it's a bit of storyboarding then, really, for the animation of the puppets, right?
A little bit. You're posing. You know, you're not doing every single little in between, but you're hitting the poses,
right?
You know, and exploring what you can do because those characters were so weird and angular and long, you know. So it was, and they were very flat. You know, they were although they were stop motion and they were reality. I mean, you could hold them. They were very flat. You know, so it was weird to turn them and keep that dimension, even though it was a 2D thing. You're doing it in 2D, and it's a 2D object, although it's a practical object. So it was very challenging, but it was really fun. And Henry seemed to really like, you know, the results. So it was cool.
Well, that was smart to use a 2D animator to actually work those issues out.
Well, I think so.
Yeah.
I sure thought so. Yeah. It was because it was, you know, he wanted that look, you know, and that timing and that flavor, you know. So it was
excellent.
Cool. Yeah.
You touched on a little bit that you're from Santa Rosa. There's another famous gentleman that comes from Santa Rosa by the
Really?
name of
Is
Charles
there?
Schultz, and
Oh,
you were
him, yes.
lifetime friends with him, weren't you?
I wish it was lifetime
You
friends.
guys were good friends, weren't you?
Well, we were friends later on. I was, he was around when I was a little kid, but I was so shy as a little kid. And growing up, I was very shy. So I never talked to him. I didn't really have an opportunity to go up and start talking to him. But when I was in high school, I took my portfolio to him, and he looked at it and he gave it back. And he had all the notes, what he wanted. He says, you need to work on this and this. But he says, you should write the director, Bill Melendez, who does all my specials. He's an animator. He'll tell you, he can point you in the right direction. So I met Bill Melendez, and we talked about art schools, and this is, then everything happened as it happened. But I didn't actually meet Sparky, But one time I was at Disney. I think it was during Oliver and Company, and he came down and did a lecture for us. And he's up there lecturing and telling us all kinds of stuff, and it was really great. And it was after it was over, I'm like, okay, man, I have got to meet him. This is ridiculous. He's right there, So after it was over, there's Jeffrey Katzenberg and Michael Eisner and all these executives sort of around him. And all my friends, they like beat it, like I'm staying. So I just walked up and said, excuse me. And I just talked to him and told him who I was. And he says, I know that name. Why do I know that name? I said, well, my dad and you belong to the same golf club. He goes, that's right. Yes, your dad. I know your dad, Bert. Yes. Anyway, so he goes, how come we haven't met till now? And I said, because I was just way too shy to ever even talk to you. But he says, well, we need to keep in touch. And so we did. We kept in touch from that point on, until he, passed away. But we'd be, we never had a physical meeting, but we talked on the phone a lot. Like when the new film would come out, he wanted to tell me what he thought of it, and that kind of thing. But and he was the nicest guy in the world. And I feel a little stupid for not trying to meet him earlier, but I'm grateful for the time I did know him and we were friends. So that was awesome.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yep.
That's really neat. Rick, I wanted to, we touched on this a little bit before the show. Last night was a sad day for a lot of Disney people with the passing of Mr. Richard Sherman. You and Matt and so many people had a relationship with him. Tell us a little bit about him. Tell us, your perspective of Richard Sherman.
He was so, I mean, first of all, a very, very nice guy to everybody, treated everybody really just great. I didn't really get to meet his brother, Robert. I mean, I'd see him once in a while, but he didn't come to the studio a lot. They had this weird relationship where they did not hang out at all. They were like David and Goliath, not David and Goliath. What are the two brothers? Cain and Abel. They were a little bit like that, where they didn't socialize a lot later on in their lives. So you didn't really see them together, But Richard was very outgoing, very friendly. So he'd come to the studio once in a while, and we'd see him at, Disney gatherings through the years, and he really loved being part of that legacy. I think he was very proud of it, of being part of the Disney legacy and knowing Walt. And I mean, he really knew. There's a lot of people that, oh yeah, I knew Walt Disney. You didn't really know Walt Disney. You were there when Walt was there, but Richard worked with him. They worked together. You know what I mean? People worked at the studio. They had some interaction with Walt for sure. But I mean, Richard worked with Walt. Richard and Robert worked with Walt very closely. So his perspective was very interesting. And of course, he had nothing but praise for Walt, and that made us feel good because as animators, well, we're doing what we can to keep that legacy going. We're doing the things we can do in our animation to keep that Disney legacy going. But Richard was just a great guy. I went to I think the last time I saw him there was an Academy tribute to him, obviously at the Motion Picture Academy. And it was a really great celebration. There was a cocktail party beforehand we went to and talked to him. And there was a lot of the old Disney, either not voices, actors. Haley Mills was there. Johnny Whitaker was there from Huckleberry Finn film that Sherman Brothers scored. So there's a lot of people that were from the Disney legacy, that we get to hang out with, and meeting Haley Mills and people like that was amazing. But Richard was just like this really super great guy, super talented. We all knew how great he was. He didn't have any arrogance about him whatsoever. He was kind to everybody. He took pictures when you wanted to take pictures. And it's just sad. The way I look at it is it's another link to Walt that we don't have now. There's very few remnants of Walt, Walt's people that are around. When I started the studio, lots of them were still there, and they would talk, tell stories about Walt and that kind of thing. So you sort of felt kind of connected because there was only like one step away from Walt. But we're all getting older, you know what I mean? And it's sad to see, someone like that pass. But you have to be grateful for the fact that we knew him and we got to hang out with him a little bit, and hear his stories. I mean, that was amazing, that he left that with us, a lot of those memories and those stories. And of course, the great scores. I mean, God, they just scored so many incredible films, I mean, Mary Poppins, oh my God, that's like, if you just did one film and it was all just that one, you have nothing to prove, It's like, Mary Poppins, 1964. Yeah. Really? That's all you needed, Yeah. But I love everything. God, everything those guys did, Aristocats. Amazing.
Yes.
So it's definitely a sad passing, but he lived a long time, and we got the benefit of his love for Disney, and his contribution to that legacy.
Absolutely. A huge contribution.
Yeah.
I was listening to Jungle Book this morning, and I had forgotten that they scored Jungle Book and King Louie, and I just went, oh my gosh, that was Richard Sherman, and it just mind blowing. All these things that are just the soundtrack of our lives,
Well, the thing good about when you say listening to Jungle Book, the soundtrack, at the end of it, they talk about the making of Jungle Book and how they found Darlene Carr, who's also a friend of mine now. We're friends, but how they found her to do the girl's singing voice at the end, and just how perfect that was. Yes. There's a lot of stuff that just worked, it just was perfect timing, being at the right place at the right time. But man, when you watch Jungle Book, and I have a beautiful 16mm print of it too, but just the opening notes, you're transported into another world. Yeah. Just the very beginning, the first 5 seconds of Jungle Book, I'm somewhere else. And that's incredible when music can do that. It can transport you immediately into another world. And that's what his stuff did, what their stuff did.
Oh, absolutely. And they started that with Walt. Yeah. And then Walt passed. It was kind of put on hold. Yeah. They went off, did Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, and then came back.
Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of amazing how they kept going and then came back.
Well, they had, they weren't exclusive. They weren't under contract exclusively to Disney, so they could they were free to do other things. And they went and did Chitty Chitty Bang Bang after Mary Poppins, and then came back in the Jungle Book. That's great that they're able to do that. And then they did like I said, Huckleberry Finn and all kinds of stuff. Stuff we don't even remember. You know what I mean? But they just kept working. Just kept working.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I've listened to so many people say that they were influenced by them. Yeah. So many people have been influenced by them, and it just, you kind of hear it here and there in other soundtracks, but there'll never be a Sherman Brothers. There will never be a Sherman Brothers again. And that's what's sad to me. That legacy is gone.
I love the fact also that having a partner, to bounce stuff off of, I mean, this is a stupid example, but like Paul McCartney was better with the Beatles. You know what I mean? Like he had John to bounce stuff off of, and there's no denying Paul McCartney's a genius. He did great music, still does great music. But I think the idea of having someone to sort of bounce things off of, I think it makes a big difference. And I thought, you get Burt Bacharach and Hal David, same thing. They worked together, to create that great music. They weren't as good apart as they were together. Yeah. But the Sherman Brothers, they were magic together. It's just, I think there's something important about having a team, a teammate, who you can work off of. You can sort of mirror what you're thinking, what you're trying to get across, and they can tell you if it's working or not, or maybe we try this. maybe this might be better. So I think that's important, that teamwork, having someone to sort of bounce things off of.
Absolutely. Using the strengths of two people.
Right.
Different strengths.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You touched on you're a music connoisseur as well. I can tell by the vinyl in your background, but you are a big fan of a group called the Sparks. Do you want to talk about the Sparks and where that led you to?
Well, it's just there's no it's just Sparks. But anyway, I've loved Sparks. Now I think because I'm in animation or whatever, but I'm always looking for, as a kid, I liked the unusual things. I liked not the standard stuff, but I kind of liked something interesting and new. So I was in high school and I saw Sparks on TV. They're on Don Kirshner's rock concert. You guys don't remember that. You weren't born. That's all right. But I saw them and I'm like, these are the weirdest dudes ever. The music was just so weird and different, and they were kind of weird. And I'm like, this is really, it just excited me, And so I just became a Sparks fan, and I followed them all through the years. Okay. Up to now. Here's the cool part. My wife used to be the drummer in the band in the mid 90s. And when I was up at Leica, I was all by myself, right? So I'm just watching Sparks videos on YouTube, and I see this girl pop up playing drums. She has dark hair, like black hair, a bob, really pretty, and just hitting these drums. I'm like, who the hell is that? It's like, I've seen these guys every time they played in LA. I've never seen her. What is going on? Well, it turned out it was in Europe. When they went to Europe to tour, they used her. They had her be the drummer. And I was like, oh my God, it's like, okay, that's what the deal is. Anyway, so we fast forward a couple years. That was in 2012. Now we're down 2015. Sparks is playing at the Wiltern. Oh, cool. So I have a friend who does their posters and things like that, artwork for them. And so she's a friend. So I went with her. I went backstage, which I was able to do a few times because I knew enough people. And I'm backstage and there's Christy Hayden. I'm like, oh my God, that's her, And she walks by me. I said, excuse me. I said, you used to be in the band, right? And she says, yeah, I was a percussionist and the drummer. I said, oh my God. And so we started chit-chatting, right? Well, she's still friends with these guys. I didn't know. Anyway, we just start chit-chatting. And then, of course, hey, let's go have coffee sometime. You know how that works. And we just start hanging out like all the time, and of course, we go romance, 2000, and then we got married in 2020, and the weird thing about it is like, she's still really tight with them. And so that means I'm friends with them now too. So we've seen them a few times, gone to dinner, been over to Russell's house a few times and stuff. Sometimes I just think back on how weird life is, what a weird deal, that my favorite band of all time, I meet my future wife. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just strange. Life is very good. Life can be, God can be very, he can give you blessings you're not realizing you're going to get. And there they are, so
they're in the making.
That's my Sparks story. And of course, I still love the band, love those guys. They're so great. And they have the movie, The Sparks Brothers documentary, came out a couple of years ago, which is excellent. Yeah. Highly recommend that. And Christy's in that. She gets interviewed.
Oh, okay.
So
have to check that out.
Yeah. But thanks for asking about Sparks.
Have you ever thought of doing something with their music as background?
It's not even
music.
It's beyond thought. I want to do something with them. I want to do. I mean, I could certainly take one of their songs and animate to it, but I want to do something for them, like not for me, but for them. So I've got a couple of things I'm kind of working on. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. I just love sort of knowing them and how creative they are and how they like different oddball things too. They're not a normal band at all. They like offbeat stuff. So it's pretty cool,
But you have also worked on music videos, right?
Yes.
So, and even with Paula Abdul, but
and I worked with Brian Wilson.
And Brian Wilson
of the Beach Boys. Yeah. I still see him every once in a while. The Paula Abdul thing, it's kind of funny. It was a music. This is when MTV was really hot, or maybe it was VH1. I forget which one, but it was in mid late '80s, and there's a video, and they wanted animation for it. So my friend Chris Bailey was going to be the animation director. So he says, hey, you guys want to do some freelance? We're going to do this Paula Abdul video, and she's going to be dancing with this cat. And, officially, we weren't supposed to work on anything that wasn't Disney because we all had signed these contracts. So I thought, well, we can do it after hours and nobody will know. Okay. So about, I don't know how many of us did it, 5 or 6 of us. Chris Bailey was on it. I was on it. Will Finn was on it. Chris Wall. I wish I could remember everybody, but there's a few of us, right? And we work after hours. All right. So the video's finished. What was funny about it, when we were working on Little Mermaid at the time, and of course, some of us were trying to finish these freelance scenes. So we were the ones with our doors closed. You knew who was doing freelance because the door was closed. If it wasn't closed, it was open. Anybody could come in anytime. But when it's closed, you figure this guy's up to something, right? Anyway, so the video's finished. We go down to Hollywood to sort of just look at the finished thing. And I think Chris told the director, said, look, don't put our names on this thing because we can get in huge trouble. We're not supposed to be working on it anyway. So please, no credits. No problem. We won't put the credits on. Don't worry. You guys have nothing to worry about. So in case it premieres, we watch it. Looks pretty good. Turned out really nice, right? At the end of the film, here's the credits. Animated by, and there we all are. Nice and slow, as the credits roll. We thought, oh my God, we're dead. Luckily, nobody ever said anything about it. The executives or whoever, Peter Schneider, never said a word about it. We just figured, okay, we got lucky, But it won all kinds of awards. It was a huge hit, and it won lots of. We never met Paula. She left a phone message. You guys are so great. Oh my God, this is going to do so well. I'm so happy. I want to get together with you guys and have a party and da 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 da. Well, of course, that party never happened, but she was very appreciative. So that was kind of cool. So yeah, that was the Opposites Attract video, which you can still see, I'm sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then Brian Wilson. I worked for Brian Wilson on an album called That Lucky Old Sun back in around 2009 or so. What was happening was they were going to do a live show in London. And there was some spoken dialogue throughout it was all about Los Angeles. And in between the songs, there'd be some spoken dialogue, and which they wanted, was part of the album. And they had, well, what are we going to do in concert? The music stops and it's just dialogue. So they decided to get have some visuals. And of course, I had been friends with Brian for a while, and I knew the family and that. So David Leaf was another friend of mine who was very tight with Brian. He's his biographer. He said, well, how about Rick? Rick can do animation. Oh, great. Okay. So anyway, they contacted me, and I did, myself and my friend Raul Garcia put together some animation for the dialogue, parts in the show. So that turned out good. They liked it. It was a little bit low budget, because they had to have it pretty quickly, but I think it worked. So it was fun though to work with him, and not so directly with him, more his wife, Melinda, who had just passed away, unfortunately, but I worked with her a lot, and, they were happy with it. So that made me really happy because I was still am a huge Beach Boys fan. So yeah, that worked out. That was cool.
Well, that's fun. It's fun to have these nice little side jobs, huh?
Yeah.
So to speak.
Yeah, exactly. You didn't hear it here. Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah. Vince, there's a couple of questions that people have. Do you want to throw a couple of those out? Can you see those? Vince?
Sure. Well, actually, I was going to tell you, go ahead. You know what? One thing before we start answering questions, though, when I started, all my research on you, Rick, the two things that everybody said was Rick Farmiloe and David Dirks are two of the coolest cats in town. I heard that a lot from people. And they were just saying, where are they going to be next? Because I want to hang out with them. I hear that so much from so many people I talk to about you guys. So you guys are just all over town. Is that planned? Did you guys just
David and I don't do appearances. Yeah, David and I do not do appearances together. It's never official, but we tend to end up at the same things. I mean, David's a very dear friend of ours. I've known David for quite a while. Yeah. He's a very dear friend, great guy. I love seeing him when I see him. You don't usually make a plan to get together. We just end up at the same places. So, different functions, but yeah, I go to a lot of academy get-togethers, and of course there's, Christmas parties and things like that and screenings and, you know, things like that. So I get busy particularly around Oscar time because there's so many screenings all over the place. So that's usually when Christy and I will hit the social, whatever you want to call it, social scene or whatever, you know. But David's a great dude. Yeah, I really like David a lot.
Yeah. Go ahead, Matt.
So as far as hanging out with us, I don't know. I don't have the answer of how you hang out with us, but it's probably just be a coincidence, I guess. You know, we ain't that funny. We ain't that much fun, but that's people think that's cool.
You'll have to mention the Starbucks you guys hang out at. You know,
I don't even. Yeah, I have an espresso machine in the kitchen. I usually just do an espresso.
There you go. A lot cheaper.
Way cheaper.
And better tasting too.
Yes. Yes.
Vince, you had one more question
Matt.
for me?
Go ahead with the question.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I lost mine. So go ahead. Go ahead with the questions.
Okay. So someone was asking you about what characters you worked on Lion King.
0.
Oh, you didn't
work on Lion King.
Yeah.
I was supposed
I didn't see it on your list.
Really? I don't. Yeah. My credits get weird. I get credit for stuff I don't even know how the hell I ever worked on it. I get a lot. She-Ra for one.
Oh,
the real Ghostbusters. I don't know, man. I don't know. I guess I don't remember. Fox and the Hound. I get a credit for Fox and the Hound. I did not work on Fox and the Hound because I didn't start the studio till 1982, so I didn't work on Fox and the Hound. And Lion King. I was at the beginning of Lion King, but my contract was up. So I left after my contract was up, and I heard that I was probably going to be in the Timon unit, which is really what I wanted anyway. Like that's the character I thought really fun, and he was real skinny.
Yeah,
you know, and I thought this guy looks like a blast. So that's the one I wanted to work on, and I heard I was slated to do that, but then, like I said, my contract was up, so I left and went to Rich Animation to work on the Swan Princess.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Someone was asking too about your favorite Family Guy character and Simpsons.
Oh God, Family Guy. Wow. Again, didn't work on Family Guy. I mean, I like the dad, whatever his name is. I like the dad, and I actually like all the characters. The dad's really funny. The little boy's great. I can forget his name. He has a football-shaped head. I like him a lot.
Yeah.
Simpsons characters, wow. Probably Homer.
Yeah.
Probably Homer. I'll tell you a super quick story. I used to know Robert Evans, who's the producer of The Godfather, Chinatown, blah, blah, blah. I used to know him. And when I went over to his house one time, as a gift, I was working on the Simpsons movie at the time. And I wish I could go get, it's too, I'd have to leave the camera, but I did a drawing of Homer Simpson dressed as Robert Evans. So I gave him the drawing, and it had Homer Simpson's with his it had Robert Evans glasses. He had the bolo tie, the suit, and he said, and he says, "Do I look like?" Homer says, "Do I look like Robert Evans?" You bet your ass I do. Evans used to always say, "You bet your ass." Anyway, and he just absolutely loved that drawing. And we were in his bedroom talking about doing a film together, and he just kept picking up that drawing and smiling. Oh, look at this. I love this. This is amazing, you know. And then next time I went over to his house, it was framed. And on his wall, he had this little alcove with all these famous movie stars he'd worked with. And there was my Homer Simpson drawing right in the middle of it. So anyway, that's my Simpson story. But I loved Homer. Homer and Bart, of course, the stars to me.
Yeah. The friction characters.
Yeah.
You know, I was trying to bring on Debbie Weiss. You've known Debbie quite some time.
And,
and you know, she invited you as far as you know, you're you know, basically group legend is what I wanted to title you as, but Facebook didn't have that for our group. But
probably just as well.
You know, I love when you post things.
Well, I decided
I love when you post things because go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, I just post my own stuff. It's like everybody's got I don't have like an animation collection anymore. I just have my own stuff. And I thought, well, I'll just post my own drawings. You know, I mean, I have some of them. I still have the real drawings. Some of them I just have Xeroxes of my scenes. You know, I Xeroxed a bunch of my scenes. So I'll post those and just sort of say, well, this is when I was doing this character, and this is how I did it, or whatever. just that's my contribution, because I don't have a bunch of Sleeping Beauty cells or anything like that. So I just like, well, I have my drawings. There are drawings, so I can just post those. I do a handful of those and just kind of explain what was going on in the scene or how I work or something like that. So, but it's kind of very fun. It's fun, and people seem to like it.
Oh, yeah. Well, and it's personal, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I guess
and
there's
you know
that.
the backstory, obviously.
What'd you say?
And you know the backstory, obviously.
Yes, it's all true. It's all true.
Yeah.
Even if it's boring, it's all true.
What are you working on right now, Rick? Are you allowed to talk about it? Are you working with anybody that you can talk about?
I'm doing a scene of a Disney princess, like a pseudo Disney princess, for a studio in Arizona. It's for like a commercial, so I'm working on that, and that's really it's really fun. It's a little bit different to do that kind of a character. It's supposed to be like it doesn't look like any particular Disney character, does, but it's supposed to have all that typical, Snow White, Belle, Sleeping Beauty, that kind of thing to her, essence to her. So I'm animating that right now, and that's really fun to do something kind of different like that. And I'm doing digitally. I'm drawing, so it's great.
Do you still draw every day? Are you still hand drawing
when I'm working,
every day?
Yeah, I don't do
still your
tons
forte?
of my own. I don't do tons of my own drawings just for myself. Like I do commissions for people. Like they'll write me, and you can put my email address if you want. But people will write me, want me to do a drawing of it. Can you do a drawing of Abu, or can you do a drawing of whoever? Or they'll send me a picture. I'm doing a drawing right now of a husband and wife and their little girl, who's just about 2 months old, I think, 2 or 3 months old, and they want to be mermaids, so they're underwater, and so I'm doing a commission, for them right now. So I do commissions, and it's kind of fun because when I do my commissions, I do those on paper. I'm actually drawing on paper. When I do my animation, I'm doing it on the Cintiq here and with a stylus, but it's the same. It's just as fun, it's the same effect. So.
Yeah. So
that's great.
He just said, guys, he does commissions. So rickfarmiloe1@gmail.com. So it's his first initial, last name, number 1@gmail.com. Look him up. He will be in the group. He's going to be helping us in the group. You can get a hold of him that way. He will definitely do commissions. He's very reasonable, good prices, great artist. Rick, thank you so much for your time today. We're so appreciative.
What a nice commercial that was. I didn't have to buy any commercial time. I just sat here and it happened. Amazing.
Well, you see what happens?
Crazy.
And we hope a lot of good work comes your way.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I've been lucky. Yeah. I mean, a lot of us in animation are, a lot of people are out of it. They're not doing it anymore, or they've retired, or they're just teaching or whatever. But I think I've been really lucky to it's been pretty steady for me. Part of it's because I'm a good networker. Like I stay in contact with people as much as I can and sort of see what's out there. And so I've been really lucky, to be consistently working.
Yeah,
sure. And it's a broad field that you've got there too, with the music and your.
How dare you call my wife a broad?
What's that?
How dare you call my wife a broad? Or did I mishear you? No.
Yes, you mishearing me.
The broad strokes, yes, the broad strokes. But like you said, I've been able to do, like I said, sort of keep working, and people will contact me sometimes. I don't really know, they'll say, "Hey, we hear you're doing this, and would you like to do some work for us on this?" And so that's really nice, when that happens.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But you've got the film, you've got animation, you've got music. You're in a social circle, multiple circles there, so that all helps.
Yeah, true. Very true.
Yeah. Excellent.
He's a Renaissance man. That's right. I'm calling Rick Farmiloe the Renaissance man.
Okay. There's probably other guys. There's probably many more people deserving of that than me. But
oh.
All right. Well, guys, Rick, I appreciate your time.
My pleasure.
Yeah, Maddie. We're gonna get together. We're gonna go to a Giants-Dodgers game. at Dodger Stadium. We're going to get together, the three of us. We're going to a Giants Dodgers game.
The Giants better win, but we'll see.
Prepared.
You know, I don't know if I can make them win, but I'm not real fun when they lose. I'll tell you that.
But there's a condition.
What?
Rick, you have to wear your Sluggers T-shirt.
Oh, the Slugs. The Slugs. Yeah, when I was coaching the Disney animation team back when I was there, yeah, we were the Slugs.
Yeah, and Brian said that you refused to wear the Slug shirt. You would always have your Frisco shirt on.
My Giants, yeah, I had my Giants Willie McCovey jersey on. Yeah, it's like, you know what? We're not getting paid for this. I'm just going to wear what I want. So
there you go.
All right, everybody. Well,
good times.
Thank you much.
Well, you guys, thank you
for Sunday. Rick Farmiloe, Matt McKim.
My pleasure, you guys. Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed every second of it.
That was a pleasure.
Me too. Thanks, Matt. Thanks.
Take care, guys. We'll see you next week.
Brian and Doris say hello.
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay,
and
cool.
Big Bob does too.